welcome to the UGO podcast, Netflix and Kill edition, TV edition this time around. Travis, it's our first TV one.
What? We're switching up the format?
Yeah, well, I decided, it's not so much a switch up a format because, the show is called Netflix and Kill. There's no part in it that just says it's movie kill.
Pretty sure that was in the description, actually.
I changed the description, and no one needs to know about it. And edit that out later.
I did not consent to this.
Anyway, you didn't consent to any of this.
Good point.
Anyway, we decided since we are going to be talking about a TV episode, we bring on a TV dude. So we got Grant Davis of the TV Dudes. Say hi, Grant.
Hey guys, you guys made a special exception to your format just for me?
Well, yeah.
Or you've deviated? You've changed the rules?
We're
the
deviants
landscape?
now.
Yeah, we've decided to change up the whole format and upheaval our entire system for you. No pressure. Just hope that it's worth it.
You guys are a couple of sweethearts.
Yeah, just like the family dynamic in this show. Just a bunch of sweethearts.
Yeah.
Just lovely people.
Just a lovely family dynamic. Because what TV episode are we talking about today? While we were talking about the Ozarks.
Money. That which separates the haves from the have-nots. Patience, frugality, sacrifice. Deciding to invest in your family's future. And taking responsibility for the consequences of those actions.
Bert?
Hello.
Trevor Evans, FBI.
Hi, what's going on?
We believe your husband's partner was murdered.
What?
Let's all stop playing this game, shall we? The lying, the running. Aren't you both tired?
We made a choice to move our family to a more peaceful place.
Mom, what are we doing here?
Your father's laundering money for a Mexican drug cartel.
Marty, where's my $5 million? Someone's going to die.
Relax. Why do I have this feeling we both know that you'd be better off dead?
Marty!
We're gonna kill your family and be done with all this madness.
Jesus, Marty, he knows the kids' names.
Last chance for witness protection.
This is just another betrayal, isn't it? How long have you been planning this?
You have walled me out.
Money is, at its essence, that measure of a man's choices.
What'd you do today for our family?
And this was Grant.
I think it's just called Ozark, but the Ozarks does make it feel like a family-friendly show.
Oh, is it just Yeah,
I think that's how they always
Ozark.
describe it in the shows. They always call it the Ozarks.
Yeah, you know what? That's what's fucking me up. Is that's what they always describe it as.
Yeah, that's the location they go to, but the show's called Ozark. Yeah, we're the Ozarks.
Yeah, but since we
on
do
APC.
have the TV dude on here, and of course I gotta always mention I am a great fan of the TV Dudes podcast. Really,
thank you.
Love your most recent work. Your recent Patreon episode, Global Thermal Nuclear War, was definitely entertaining. Where you just kind of. You and Randy kind of just deal with living in a possible nuclear threat, so that's fun.
We're all gonna die, guys.
We're all gonna die.
I hope you're okay with it. Yeah.
The greatest Netflix and kill is the nuclear one. Anyway, would you like to describe just a little bit about Ozark and what it's about?
Okay, Ozark is a crime thriller. If you guys were familiar with that Ben Affleck movie, The Accountant, I'm pretty sure that's the same guy who wrote that created this show. So I guess this guy, he understands accounting, but he has a chubby for crime sort of drama. But the basic premise is that Jason Bateman and his partner are money launderers for the drug cartels down in Mexico, but he operates out of Chicago. And when things go awry between his partner and the drug cartel, he is quick on his feet to think of a way out. And he basically bullshits his way into saying he will take his family and relocate to the Ozarks, which are in, I don't know, Missouri, I guess, area.
Yeah, I think that's actually nicknamed the Redneck Riviera, like, which is a great name. But
yeah. So, it's this big old lake where they're going to be able to, like, move drugs around or whatever, but the idea is also that he said there's a bunch of business that comes in there that'll be an opportunity for him to launder money through in order to, clean it for the cartel. So he's like, I'll go down there and I will clean, and he just throws out like a crazy figure, like $8 million, I believe. And the guy's like, all right, let's see you do it. And so it kind of takes place with his family having to pick up after a bunch of fucked up stuff happens to them.
Yeah, I did like your description, Grant, of just like things go awry with the drug dealer. That's
a very polite way of saying it.
Such a mild description for the fucked up thing that happens.
There's quite a bit of fuckery.
Yeah.
But no, that's pretty much the gist of at least the first episode, and it's a pretty good setup.
We should probably mention that we are only talking about the first episode.
Yeah, we will only be talking about the first episode, but from what I've seen of the show, because we did watch a couple more episodes after that, me and Travis, because we got sucked into it. I would definitely highly recommend you at least watch the first one, because it does have some really intense moments.
First episode is just how it's constructed is incredible. It drives with such energy. It has such a clear direction of what it wants to do, and it doesn't bullshit around in order to accomplish its end goals. I was just like, holy shit, how they wrote this. It's so tight and efficient and brutal and visceral.
Well, it's since it is, I've seen people compare it to, like, this is Netflix's trying to make their own Breaking Bad. And
yeah.
And this first episode, it does remind me of the first episode of Breaking Bad, where it feels like they're both kind of mini movies, where it is a setup, but the pacing and the structure of the episode is just like, God damn, this is like a really cool, like, it could be a really cool short story onto itself, you know?
Did you guys ever watch The Shield?
Oh, I love The Shield.
In a way, it's kind of like The Shield as well, in the fact that Jason Bateman's character, oh man, what's his name? He's got like a pretty memorable name, right?
What was their last names of the family?
Marty Bird. Marty Bird.
Right. The Birds.
And the fact that Marty Bird has this slippery way of talking his way out of intense situations.
He's a shyster.
And
he is a piece of shit that is like he is like the worst crossover. Like, he is a car salesman, insurance salesman, like door to door. Like, the way he can talk his way in and out of situations is just a wonder to behold.
I actually think it's almost more impressive because he never really comes off really as slimy. I mean, what he's doing is slimy, but his personality doing it's always like,
it's because it's Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
Like, that's his secret weapen.
I could be like, God, I would probably fall for this.
He's like, yeah, we all kind of like him. We all remember him from Arrested Development. Got like, oh, that's Michael. He's fine. He won't steer me wrong.
he's an incredible, like, lovable everyman, and that's like the great juxtaposition, having this guy who just you want to like him and you want to immediately root for him, and then you kind of see the stuff that he's into and the effects it's having on everyone around him, and you're like, well, that's shitty, but at the same time, it's Jason Bateman.
I know, it's
fine.
It's crazy because, like, it's not like he's innocent of this. He from the jump, he's laundering money
for a
cartel. He's a bad guy.
Those aren't exactly your friendly money launderers down there.
No, and it's like, yeah, he didn't, like, the one thing he's innocent of is that he wasn't dumb enough to steal money from the cartel like his partner was. And
yeah, but
like the situation he is in is such a shit scenario that it's hard to not feel sympathy for him.
Mm-hmm.
But we should get into that, because surprisingly enough, I actually had to learn to like this episode, because in the beginning, I actually was not digging it very much, which was interesting to me, because, well, one, the opening where it's just Jason Bateman listing all the different names of money, that, like, I was like, oh, great, this is going to be like Focus, or like some pretentious crime thing of just like, it's
did Diablo Cody write this bullshit? What's going on?
It's like, oh, come on, like cheddar, like clams. I'm like, okay, yeah, they're different names for money. Let's move on from this. And then the way it's like, it's got the same like Snyder World blue filter on it that the accountant also had, and I'm not really a big fan of that muted colored palette. It kind of like it. I feel like it's it really, you know, I know they use it to kind of like set up like this really dark undertone current, like everything's always a very tense scene. But I'm just not I feel like it washes a lot of personality out of the thing. But later, I think it does actually kind of work for it when they actually hit the Ozarks, because it kind of gives this bright and sunny kind of vacation spot a little bit more of a sinister feel the whole time through.
Yeah, it's not a happy show, Nick.
No, it is not. It is not a happy-go-lucky show. That is for sure.
My biggest problem watching this first episode at first was that we get to the scene where they're sitting there, like, him and his partner talking about, like, his partner has so much more money than he has. I'm like, you're working the same job. You are partners, literal partners, and yet you're not suspecting something's wrong with the fact that your friend's like, I go on these big-ass vacations all the time.
Well, his friend is the one that brings it up. Is like, how is it that, like, he was like, well, how is it that we make the same bank and I am more flashier than you? Like, yeah, how is that?
Yeah. And I was kind of worried at first that the show would go on with that a bit too long, where we like, yeah, we know he's stealing. It's pretty obvious. And that doesn't really happen.
Well, let's get to my turnaround here, because Jason Bateman, he kind of, when I first see him, I'm like, this guy, he doesn't seem like a very good guy. He has this weird dream sequence with like a hooker where he's pretending to cheat on his wife or something, and I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm totally into this.
He also gets off on a video of his wife cheating on him.
Well, it's not like he gets off on it. I think he's watching it over and over again to, like, I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure he was...
Was he getting... No, I thought it was more of an anger thing of him just like, this is like, I have to remind myself I have to hate I hate my wife sort of thing.
Maybe it's just because of how his partner commented on it. I thought that.
I mean, I guess.
You guys haven't watched the rest of it, so I'm like, okay, I'm biting my tongue on certain things.
I know, like, we're probably speculating on things that might come into play later.
I think you both are kind of circling around things that you're correct on.
Okay.
That's all.
Let's go for a term of the night, cuckolding.
Oh, but, yeah. Anyway, we do meet the the cartel guy that they actually work for. What's his name again?
Best thing about the episode?
Yeah, that I think that's what
Del.
he's actually I think that he actually is billed under best thing in the episode.
Del is his name.
Oh, is that his name?
That works too.
Who is this actor?
Esai Morales.
He is awesome. I
Yeah,
love
he's
this
fantastic.
guy. He's only in, like, we've only seen him in the first episode, but he fucking owns that. He steals the show every time he's on screen. He shows up and he tells this story about
His aunt.
This aunt, like
Aunt Carlita.
His aunt Carlita that was stealing from the till of his grandfather's shop or whatever, and it's like this intimidation tactic, and he ends up just shooting this innocent woman out of basically nowhere, and it turns out like, everyone except Jason Bateman was like stealing money from this guy, which, oh my god, how dumb do you have to be to steal money from the cartel?
And it actually gets even worse later on.
Like, it's so dumb. Like, and so yeah, that's the most intense sequence there, is just that the violence that it breaks out into is so sudden and jarring and like realistic. It is just like,
the father shouldn't have to watch his son be killed, so he shoots the father. Like, oh god, why?
God damn, that was dark.
I love, though, that you find out that it was all a feint by Del, because he didn't actually know whether or not the partner had been stealing, but he suspected, given how the partner was silent, that he was correct on it, and then that's when he acted on it.
Later in the episode, you found out, like, okay, so how did you know? And he's like, no, you were right, I was fishing. It's god damn, it was so cold!
Yeah, well, the main character is pretty smart about it, where it's like, wait, you mentioned this amount of money, but that wasn't right. It's like, yeah, I know, I didn't even know if there was anything to be stolen yet. I just had a hunch. Like, you're terrifying.
No, well, it's the fact that this guy he's smart. He is a very effective villain. It's weird, him and Jason Bateman are very similar in their mindset as well, as we'll find later. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the way that the executions go, like he's having a final conversation with his friend, and mid his friend apologizing to him for getting him involved in this, he just gets shot in the face. And I know that Jason Bateman is going to make it out of this, otherwise,
not much more show.
What else is more show? But my stomach is still in knots. Like, fuck, how does he get out of this? And I love how he gets out of it too, because he sees the brochure that his friend had, about the Ozarks, and he just starts talking, and he just keeps talking and talking and talking until he can, trying his goddamn hardest to get out of this situation. And props to Jason Bateman in his acting, because in that moment, you just felt the desperation and just like him trying to sell this as hard as he can.
Oh yeah, and he goes through all the common tropes. So my wife knows nothing about this. I have kids. That whole thing.
Yeah,
it's also interesting to see that Del, for as vicious and savage as he is, he definitely has a sweet spot and a certain degree of respect for Marty, or Jason Bateman's character, that he obviously did not share for the partner.
Well, to be fair,
because
Marty didn't
he defers to Marty on hey, how do you feel about this? What are your suspicions? How should we handle certain situations? He wants the answer from Marty because that's the voice of reason and logic. So that's why I think he gives him a little bit more of a wider berth to go ahead, try and sell me on why I shouldn't kill you.
Yeah, and he lets Marty talk, and so the other guys he didn't let talk because he doesn't trust them.
No,
but it's because he likes Marty, because at some level he knows this guy thinks like me and I like him. And the best example of this is the answer to the story, because he asks a question after he's done with his Aunt Clarita story, which is that there's this, the woman, she's been stealing from the till, she gets caught stealing from the till, like $5 or something. And it's and this woman, she's been a loyal, employee for this long. She stole it because she needed the money for medicine. Like, what would you do? And all the other people well, if she's, an honest customer, I would say, let her go, and it happens again, then she's fired. You give her a second chance. And I think someone what was it, his partner said, it's a bitch to,
train a new cashier, plus $5.
So yeah, plus it's also it's only $5. It's that's a thing. And then later in the episode, we get a great tense scene because his wife, who obviously knows that he's been money laundering, that was a great juxtaposition there.
Yeah, I love that part where it's oh yeah, you were lying out your teeth.
Oh well, yeah, he was. He was lying like you wouldn't believe. And his wife, who is
Laura Linney.
Yeah, Laura Linney. Man, she is fantastic as well. I love Laura Linney, and
she's incredible through the whole season.
She is fucking killing it in this role. She is killing it. And she is hanging with the lawyer that she's having the affair with, and the lawyer is convincing her hey, that he's getting all his money out, and he trying to convince her he's gonna run or something, even though he straight up told her this is it's not he's being all vague about it Breaking Bad. He straight up tells her all the information and everything he needs to do.
We need to do this, we have to get this much money and be out here by 48 hours or they'll kill us all,
or they're gonna kill all of us. And she takes the money anyway, and of course the cartel, they
were watching.
That's their job. So he gets the call up, and which leads to my favorite kill. I guess my most intense kill. We'll go with it, because the lawyer gets dropped out of a window, and it's just it comes out of nowhere. He just whoa, what the fuck, and
doesn't even know how to react.
Well,
it's a brutal splat, and then he's oh, never mind, I'm leaving them out of here.
I love the Turner. I love that he just nope, and he turns around and just walks off.
Pretty good nope. I think one of the unsung heroes of the episode is that PI investigator, though.
Oh yeah, that is giving him the advice. Right before he goes over to confront his wife, he's oh yeah, do you own a gun? Mm-hmm. And everyone's no. I was oh good, that'll be easier for you to duck charges then.
Yeah.
It's whoa, it's he's not telling him you should probably go kill your wife and her lover right now. But
if you're gonna do that, you not using a gun is better for you.
he speaks in this great double talk the whole time, and we see him in a couple other episodes later too, where he has to call him for advice, and like the double speak between them is really fun and cleverly written. But yeah, we get our cartel boss calls him again, and we get we finally get his answer for what we should do with the Aunt Clarita. And because he has Laura Linney now, where it's like, what should I do with a woman that's, that was loyal, like, that has been loyal, but try to screw me over this one time. And it's this great parallel because Laura Linney's just sitting there looking like, oh god, I'm fucked. I'm so fucked. Like, the look on her face is priceless. And Jason Bateman is quick to go, like, fire her. Like, it's like, and why? Because it's not the first time she stole from you. It's the first time she got caught.
Yep.
And it's like, fuck. It's a
good line.
Such a great line. And it's so cold. And I really I'm like, okay, again, I'm thinking, okay, there's no way Laura Linney doesn't make it out of this, because she makes it out of episode 1, right? But it's still, I'm still nervous the whole time.
If they would have switched up and be like, she's dead, I'd be like, yeah, of course she's dead.
Ugh.
It was a really smart way for the show to tie together how the personal relationship dynamic going on between him and his wife parallel the drug cartel and the overarching problem of his partner betraying him and betraying the cartel. And I just love how that all weaves together and culminates right there at the end and is the driving force for you absolutely having to go to that next episode.
Yeah, just like after that, it's kind of like, it's like the show is daring you not to watch the next episode. And you're right, that the way that is written, it's so cleverly written and so efficient too, how it can wrap up two separate, different, plot points and further the narrative, on two fronts with one move, with one line of dialogue is like, god damn, that's efficient writing. I love that shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I love that. And he's scraping together this cash, and that's a problem within itself too, because they're in Chicago and it's not like the FBI isn't monitoring huge sums of transactions.
Yeah, that's a pretty big flag.
He has to use, I love his, white privilege scene of just, if I want to take my money, all of, $7 million of this money, put it in a hot tub and go Scrooge McDuck on it, that is my goddamn right. And he walks out of there.
I actually really love the line. Basically, he gets stopped by the FBI. Of course he does.
Yeah.
And he goes to the bank teller. Look, you were able to speak in a hostage situation? If that's the case, that money's there, so I want it.
Yeah.
Oh, balls on you. You're basically demanding your own ransom money right now.
If normal people, when they get confronted with the FBI, would get all, nervous and subservient, oh, I'm sorry, this must be some sort of... He gets more antagonistic. Yes. He gets aggressive with, fuck you. And we see that more in the later episodes, too, of, that's his default, no, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna lie some more. Mm-hmm. That's his default, line of it, because it's and it's the thing that most people don't expect, so people are caught off guard when he does it. It's really interesting.
Well, he has that calm, nice guy pushover initial demeanor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that he tries to sell, and if that doesn't work, then he flips a switch and he'll also go, no, fuck you, pay me.
No, it's great. He can become whoever he needs to be in the moment to sell whatever story he's trying to sell. And it's great because you can see what makes him a good money launderer / accountant. When he has to deal with people, I even like the opening sequence where he's with the couple, mm-hmm. That they're looking for a new accounting service, and he's trying to sell them with a little more of a complex kind of sell. And then his partner comes in with that whole, we're actually only accepting new clients for, a certain amount of time.
You have 20 minutes to agree to this.
Yeah. And it's such a, cliche, obvious ploy, mm-hmm. and yet they fall for it. And I love Jason Bateman's face, because he's really?
Did you have to?
It's so tacky. He's we're above that. He has a certain pride in his scam artistry.
Yeah.
And I really love that he does end up getting short. He's short the money.
Oh god, this scene was amazing.
And he's like, but I haven't sold the minivan yet, so I can get that to you early. And it's the top rated SUV in America, and
it's like $6,000 or something. He's short on $8 million.
He's $6,000 short, and he's like, and the drug dealer's like, no, cool, I'll buy the minivan from you, like for 20. I think
it was 20,000 or something.
Yeah, for 20,000. I was like, oh, holy shit! And it's and I'll lease it back to you for $1,000 a month. And I'm like, oh, you dick! Like we've seen this guy murder people in the show before, and yet that was the moment where I'm like, nah, this dude's an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, cause he knows that he has one over on this guy, and he just has to jab it in just a little bit, like $1,000, like really leasing him to $1,000 a month. But so perfect in the moment, cause like, but yeah, he barely makes it, and then the fucking cartel, he's like, okay, yeah, take that money too. What? I need you to go wash this money. Like, it's already, it's clean. I need you to prove to me that you can wash it. So he doesn't even get a grace period for getting money together. He has to go there.
No, he's got the money. He's gotta go.
No, he's gotta go and just like, it's great because it leaves this show on kind of like hitting the ground running. Like, we can't take a break or take a breather at any point. But yeah, I feel like we haven't talked about the kids that much either, which is, they don't really have much to do in the first episode. They kind of...
Yeah, they don't really feature, right?
No, they have a couple lines. They're
just kind of pissed.
The psoriasis argument.
Well, we get Jason Bateman being kind of like this passive-aggressive dad, which is interesting. But, they don't really factor in until some of the later episodes. And yeah, the way this one ends, where it's just kind of like him, like he made it, he finally did it, but you kind of have that realization of just like, oh, this was only step one. Mm-hmm. I'm still like, I got like 5 years of this left
to do $500 million.
$500 million. And I like the moment at the very end too, where he gets out of the car and he just kind of breaks down for a minute and kind of just mourns his friend, which you realize he hasn't even had time to take a minute out and mourn his best friend dying, because he's been so concerned and busy with just trying to survive and
just running on fumes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's a real, you can feel the exhaustion with him, like in that moment. And it's a really well shot sequence. I don't know, I feel like...
And then they happen to be at the most beautiful vista ever.
Yes. The music is just really depressing.
Yeah, so, I feel like we've been kind of like gushing over this show a lot. But is there anything you weren't crazy about, Grant, at all? At least for the first episode?
I mean, no. The first episode and the second episode were so powerful and intense that I was just immediately hooked. And I mean, I'd say like as the show goes on, it's untenable for them to kind of maintain that pace, and I get it. So they have to do a little bit of a slowdown, a little bit of adjustment, expand the cast, make things have, I guess, a little bit more of a routine, but it still stays pretty intense throughout. This is a fantastic show, and I think it was a big surprise for everyone who just kind of checked in on this.
Yeah, if there was one thing, like, I only have one critique that I'm not crazy about, and that's the soundtrack and the score. Mm-hmm. And most of it is not like the choices they make. I just feel like sometimes they have like the volume of the score. I'm like, I can't actually hear the dialogue. Could you ease back just a tad?
No, I think there was even a moment watching the first episode where I literally shouted at the screen, I get it, soundtrack. I know how I'm supposed to feel. Tone it back.
Well, that was enough of on its own. But there were like a couple instances, I think in episode 2 and 3, where I'm like, I can't actually hear what they're saying. I can't hear the dialogue over this because they're whispering during this scene, and the soundtrack is doing this loud thing, and so like, and that's a small nitpick from me because most of the time it is pretty fitting to the situation that what's going on.
I didn't even find I noticed the soundtrack as the show kept going. So maybe they kind of tone it down after that initial episode.
Yeah, I think they might, because I think I remember two moments like from the first episode and then episode 2. like had a couple moments, but then like I think we've watched up to like episode 4. I
think so,
and I don't know if I remember anything that specifically. But yeah, there's plenty more to come because we get an early introduction to the cop in episode 1. This cop that ends up chasing him throughout the rest of the series. And this cop...
One determined FBI cop.
This cop could have a movie all to himself. This guy is nuts. Like,
a little bit.
Oh yeah, they just keep on peeling layers on this guy as it goes. It's pretty fascinating.
He actually reminds me a lot of the agent from Sense8.
Which agent?
The one that was going after Nomi.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like that level of obsession and crazy.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the we don't even get to introduce to the Langmores, which are like the local like hillbilly crime family sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not really crime family. That implies much more organization than they actually have.
True. They're a family who commits crimes.
Troublemakers, I guess you'd call them.
Riffraff and local crooks, yeah.
And they're a fun gang to get to know as well too, with their leader being Ruth, played by Julia Garner, who is actually a really fun character.
Do you remember her? Did you guys see The Americans last season, where she was the young girl that Matthew's, I guess, trying to romance? It was very creepy.
I'm unfortunately behind on The Americans, and by behind means I haven't watched any of it.
Yeah, she plays a very memorable character there, and it's a great pivot that she made over to this character. I see a lot of similarities in them, but yeah, she definitely commands a scene, and props to her. I was really impressed also, like, as the show goes on, with the kids, the casting of the kids, they're both really good. They're better than I thought in the first impression. I was like, oh no, there's gonna be these young kids, they're gonna weigh down the plot. But they hold their own, and it's pretty good stuff.
I don't want to go into too many spoilers for anything past episode 1, but there's an interesting plot element, like where you think that this whole family thing is going with the kids and how they, like, you know, oh, how are they going to dance around? Like, why are we moving with the kids? You know, like they kind of make that lead up, and that doesn't really go where you think it's gonna. Despite the parallels to Breaking Bad, sometimes it almost feels like it makes, like,
it purposely subverts them.
What's the exact opposite thing we can do that Breaking Bad did, and then it kind of does that, and the fallout from that sort of thing is very interesting for what the kids have to deal with.
Yeah, the cliffhangers on how they end these episodes.
Oh, that's
so good.
That episode 2 cliffhanger is just like, oh, it's so like.
I did a double take on the screen.
It's like, they could do that? Okay.
Well, like any episode that ends with "I shit you not" is a great ending.
So I watched the show Justified. I don't know if you guys ever watched that.
I love Justified. It's one of my favorite shows.
This sort of parallels the first season for me in, I guess, overall how I felt about it. In that I felt the first 2 episodes and the last 2 episodes were really powerful. And I'm sorry if that's a little bit of a spoiler. I really enjoyed the last 2 episodes of the season too. And well, I mean, I feel this is actually a lot stronger than the middle episodes there, but I could see where it kind of slows down in pace, and Justified I didn't like as much, but there's also kind of this feeling of the people of Harlan and the people of the Ozarks where they are, and they're kind of these very insular hillbillies in a way, but I was just really driven. The cast of characters here is fantastic.
No, yeah, the cast is very good, and it's funny you bring up the Justified parallel, because I also feel like watching the first season of Justified, which I really like, but I do admit that the second and third seasons are like where that show is best. And I feel like that's because we have a strong connecting villain throughout, like connecting the plot throughout most of those seasons. And the first season of Justified and this feel like, man, I feel like I really miss what's his name, the drug dealer from the first episode. And in Justified, it's kind of like, man, I wish Boyd was the main antagonist the whole time through.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't get Boyd, you don't get Dell here constantly.
But
like,
I just
as
feel like the show probably couldn't even keep up that pace though, of just having Dell constantly around.
Yeah, and I know that, like, logically I know that, but in my heart I want Dell. Like, Dell will never leave my heart. Like, no, I want him. I want him in more episodes because like, he is just fun. He's like I was just watching Baby Driver. He's like Jamie Foxx's character from Baby Driver, where every time he's on screen, I'm just like, I am nervous for everyone in the fucking room. Like, I just don't know when this guy is going to go off. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think slight spoilers for episode 2 as well, of like, because what's great about this the dialogue in this show as well is just that they say stuff that you just, like, you never hear, like in the, like, The Shield is a good comparison because The Shield would do this too, is where characters would just say things that are just like, oh my god, I cannot believe a human being said that to another human being. One example being like where Laura Linney is talking about, like, she's trying to, like, you know, this wasn't 100% my fault either. Like, I forget what the conversation was.
She really gets on her high horse.
But yeah, she was getting a little, like, and then Jason Bateman's like, oh yeah? Well, and like he goes into this long tirade. And he goes on, like, he always ends his speeches like one insult too long,
just
I think.
One too many slights.
Well, he ends on, like, the thought of your lover hitting the pavement is the only thing that gets me to sleep at night. And I was just like, god damn!
That was like, although that was one of the few ones where I'm like, nah, he earned that.
Well, it's hard because Laura Linney has such a weird job to do acting-wise, because she has to, like, she had to, like, her character has to knowingly steal money from him, knowing that will get him killed. And
possibly her and her children.
Well, and then later she has to sell the fact that she's actually just happy to see him alive, like, getting out of certain situations, like, oh shit, he comes back from a situation, it's like, oh, it turns out, like, oh, I thought he was gonna die, and now I'm happy that he's alive, but I'm also kind of sad because it would have been a lot better if he had just died for me. And she sells that complicated emotion just on her face, like, as, like, where she, one episode she closes the door in the bathroom and just kind of, like, almost cries to herself, like, and I was just like, wow, it just reminds me how good of a fucking actress she is.
Yeah, but for that character, like, a lot of times I actually feel more on the husband's side, which is weird because, like, you got to be a stay-at-home wife, like, in this kind of world. We're just like, no, you got to use the privilege of being a money launderer's wife, and you were going to steal from him and possibly get him killed for that.
Well, and then we get the...
I mean, it's sort of like that thankless role and a thankless character in a way, that she has to be the shrill, mean wife who ruined everything for this lovable money launderer.
I wouldn't even say she's the one that ruined it. She just she sits on a high horse a few too many times.
Well, it's...
I mean, it goes both ways. I feel like...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He acts like he's infallible or not culpable for a lot of his actions. And, I mean, I think you kind of see as it goes along that he's got an ego to him, not unlike Walter White, and that he made choices that put them in situations and made choices in his relationship that... You know, it's not all on her.
No, it's definitely not. The only one I actually do feel...
It's easy to scapegoat her right away, I guess.
Right. The only ones I actually do feel legitimately bad for is, like, those two can fuck off because they made the decisions either way. It's the children. I'm like, yeah, this sucks for you guys.
Well...
oh, yeah, it's terrible.
I feel like since she is obviously the Skylar parallel from Breaking Bad, I always felt worse for Skylar because, like, there was always some Skylar hate going around, too. And I always felt like... I always felt worse for her because I'm like, well, yeah, she's doing some of this messed up stuff, but you gotta remember that she woke up one day and was like, oh shit, my husband's a drug dealer. And she had to deal with that. And
my husband's a drug dealer who's been lying to us a lot.
She woke she when she found out, she was neck deep in it. Mm-hmm. So with Laura Linney, she gets a little less sympathy probably just because, she obviously knew for quite a while that this guy was laundering money. And so she doesn't get she doesn't get that benefit of the doubt that even Skylar did. And even Skylar got a bunch of hate that I didn't think it was that deserved.
I don't even say I hate this character. I just...
Well, I really like her when they present a united front in front of like the FBI or something, like, or in front of the cops.
No, that was a good scene.
It's a really cool scene where they unite and go like, okay, fuck, like we might hate each other, but we
fuck
hate
them.
But fuck those guys. We're gonna team up and like and do this together. I actually really liked those moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, we're gonna wrap this up here. We'll do like kind of final thoughts and just reviews for like our for this episode specifically. We won't do a review for the whole show, but
and favorite kill.
And favorite
kill. I guess you said yours.
I mean, I've said mine. I feel like there's not really a whole because surprisingly, there's not a whole lot of deaths in the show. Like as tense as it is, there's only a certain number of deaths in it.
Well, 3 out of how many people died?
Yeah, well, it's just
4 out of...
I guess the threat of imminent death is more the thing. And even in the later episodes, too, that we watched, it was just like, it's not like a lot of people actually, it's this overhanging threat that really drives the narrative. But yeah, for me, wow, it was a little rocky for me in the beginning. I will admit, I wasn't sure where the show was going. But then in retrospect, I'm like, oh, this was all lead up to this to get me here. And the payoff is so good that I'm like, oh, well, damn, this whole thing was totally worth it to watch this. So just for this episode specifically, I'm giving it 5 out of 5. And just like, man, I don't know how this... Granted, I don't know how this show wraps up. I don't know, like, we're only in episode 4. Maybe it does something that I really don't like, but... God damn, if I didn't want to watch the next episode right the fuck then. So I can't... I really can't recommend this first episode at least highly enough. And yeah, like I said, my favorite kill is the lawyer just splat hitting the ground. And what really sells it for me is just Jason Bateman just turning around and just like, I'm out of this. It's just great because...
he was also going there to potentially kill him.
Well, he knows his wife is up there and it's like, fuck that. And he just walks off.
Yeah.
I love that. Travis, how about you?
I feel very similar, except for I actually felt almost the opposite in my opinion of the opening, is that I actually, was just waiting for it to get to the point at first. I'm like, look, I know it's going to come to this, just kind of speed it up here, but it did keep me interested all the way through. Like I said, the few minor problems we already mentioned that it felt a little slow at first, and the music kind of annoyed me at times in that first episode specifically. I'd probably have to say my favorite death might actually still be the father getting shot, though, just because that was so sudden. We're like, oh, just no one should have to watch their son die. So shoots in the head. Like, oh god, why?
Damn. So cold.
I think overall I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10, and this is coming from someone who actually doesn't usually watch this kind of shows, because as much as this pisses Nick off, I've still not seen Breaking Bad.
And I know, the crazy thing is that I know you would love Breaking Bad.
It's possible.
Because you love the shit, you love Game of Thrones, politics, you love this show. I'm like, this Breaking Bad would so be in your alley. It's like, that's what frustrates me about it the most.
Yeah. I probably will eventually watch it. After I watch the Ozarks, I'll go back and watch that.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, this one has been, it was a really good first episode that it does just keep you wanting more.
All right, so we both greatly enjoyed it. But Grant, the TV dude,
the one who's already watched it all,
since your opinion is way more informed than ours, what is your rating?
Okay, first off, you guys got to clarify the rating because one of you gave a 5 out of 5 and the other an 8
It's a personal reference.
Oh, you can give out of anything. Yep. You can give 37 out of 86. We don't really care.
Okay. I give this 37 out of 36 monkeys. I guess, whatever.
It's more than 100%. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I would agree with you guys about the show just is a nonstop fun thrill ride to watch. It's it's paying homage to a lot of these other shows that are already these fantastic, Hallmark benchmark kind of shows. Breaking Bad, I already referenced Justified. I feel like The Shield, there's echoes of that going on here. And the characters are all playing at the top of their game here. It's brilliant. The first episode is so intense. I was amazed at how well woven the plot lines were and how tight it seemed. I mean, I didn't mind the slower pace up front because it it seems to just build and build momentum, and then it's going so fast at the end. It was kind of nice, that breather at the beginning. Now, like, especially when I think back in retrospect. The favorite kill from me is actually the one where he kills the girlfriend in the bathroom. It's the one that we don't actually see because he just shoots in the door. There's something so brutal and so heartless about, like, not even having to look at her, but just firing into this door. And we know that she was, like, the one truly innocent character here. Or, I mean, at least fairly innocent. I don't know. We didn't get enough of a backstory for her. But she just is sort of killed almost off screen, and it's just tough to watch because that's the first kill, I believe, of the show, and it's pretty intense. And, yeah, I guess I would give this I don't know, somewhere between an 8 or 9 out of 10 sounds pretty good to me. I think that this is going to be one of the best shows I've seen this year.
Yeah, it's really intense, and I do agree with you on that kill. Is that just the fact that once that kill happens, you kind of know, like, it's all kind of like, okay, how bad is this? Like, you're trying to gauge how big of a fuck up that they've caused, and then
that's the tilt. It's a game changer right there.
Once she gets shot, and the civilian who had nothing to do with it gets shot through the door, you're like, oh, they're all fucked. Like, they're all out of there.
Yeah.
But yeah, a really enjoyable show. Hopefully we have Grant on again at some point, turn us on to some even better shows, because if he turns us on to stuff like this, I'm gonna have to keep updating my Netflix queue.
Oh, it's all downhill from here. I'm just gonna recommend garbage.
This was the peak.
Yeah.
Have you heard of a little show?
We're gonna watch Fuller House. All the kills that are in Fuller House.
I was gonna go with, like,
interesting kill if I want to kill myself afterwards.
Have you heard of a little show called The Cape?
It's a throwback.
Yeah. No one's heard of that, Nick. Pick a more relatable reference. But yeah, it was absolutely fantastic having you on, Grant. Before we leave, would you like to pimp your stuff before you go?
Sure. First off, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate popping on here again. This is a lot of fun.
Of course.
And yeah, if you guys want to check us out, we are at thetvdudes.com. We have new episodes out every Friday, and we talk about mainly stuff on cable and streaming shows, genre heavy shows. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. They do a great Game of Thrones wrap up almost after every episode, so that's good.
Oh, it's a must. Yeah.
Always love that shit. Hashtag dickin' is a thing. That's a deep cut for any of you TV Dudes listeners right there.
Some hard dickin'. Yep.
Some hard. Okay, yeah, I think that'll be the subtitle for this episode, I think. Hard dickin'. Just out of nowhere. Just TV Dudes.
Dickin's out of nowhere.
Hard dickin'. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Of course, if you'd like to suggest a movie for us to watch, or maybe a guest for us to have come on, we would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Send any of that to either our webpage at unapologeticgeekout at gmail, or at unapologeticgeekout.com. Damn it. I'm trying to do the email, which is unapologeticgeekout at gmail.com. You can always send us suggestions there. Maybe give us a Facebook message. Give us a like while you're there. You can always follow us at Twitter at UGO Podcast. Our Instagram's the same thing if you want to check out some of our con pictures and some of the other stuff we do there. And as always, you can review us on iTunes. Please give us some of those 5-star reviews. We really appreciate them. And if you give us the 5-star reviews, we will read whatever goes in that review box on the air word for word. That is my guarantee. Which is an idea I stole from the TV Dudes. Mm-hmm. So,
hey, it's a good one.
And it's worked out for us. So we read some weird shit, and I want to read some more weird shit. So send those in. Other than that, thank you again, Grant.
Yeah, thanks.
Coming on. Yeah, absolute pleasure. And with that, we are on Unapologetic Count, and we're out.